Cattaneo, the main presenter, and Etinne Huret, the main discussant in this seminar. Then we'll open the discussion to the people attending. We have guests in Zoom, directly in Zoom, and we have guests in our channel, YouTube channel. So the question raised in Zoom, I can directly give the word to the guests. In questions from the YouTube platform will be sent to me, and I will ask those questions on behalf of the audience. So I think I've got my 2 minutes. So Gianluigi, please, you may start. Thank you very much.
Thank you, João. I hope you hear me well. If not,
very well. It's like you are in my room safely.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm in Madrid, where IBM Europe, Middle East, and Africa headquarters is based. And I am the Vice President for Human Resources. So I'm responsible for the entire talent strategy for IBM in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Just to give you a dimension, our revenue in this geography is about $22 billion, and we have a little less than 100,000 employees across the entire geography that you can imagine is quite large. Today, I'm pleased to be part of this webinar. I prepare a few charts, and in the next 15-20 minutes, I want to focus on just a couple of points. One, just put in context, is to reflect on IBM strategy that is related to the changes that we are observing in the market. And then coming on the second point, that really, what is our vision of the collaboration between private and public institutions in education, which I believe is what I've been asked to contribute in this webinar. So if that's okay, I'll try to share my screen. As said, I'm not many charts, but I believe it's helpful to convey the message we want to discuss here. Let me see if it works. And share. Yeah, I think you can see it now, correct? Let me go in. I will not go much in the detail, but I think the starting point is understanding that the market in the IT industry is approaching a new chapter for cloud and digital. In IBM, we call chapter 1 much what we have experienced up to now. There was an innovation mainly driven by consumer. And for us, has been a lot around experimentation in digital and in AI. And the real focus was on user application. Whatever we have experienced in the last few years of this revolution from our smartphone. Now, we believe that we are entering in a new era that is chapter 2. And this time, instead of consumer driven, we'll be driven by enterprise, the innovation, and we will have embedded the digital and artificial intelligence in all business at scale. It means that all, not just the user application, what we experience from our smartphone will be transformed, but also the mission critical workload that will drive to the cloud. Our estimation is that of the workload, just about 20% are really moved to the cloud. Another 80% is mostly untapped. And for us, while chapter 1 was mainly dominated by moving to the public cloud, chapter 2 will be a combination of public, private, traditional, what we call hybrid cloud. If that is the market environment, IBM mission, and I think it's important to stress that IBM works with the enterprise, not with the consumer. IBM vision is to become an hybrid cloud and data AI company. That's really the core of our mission, and all is underpinned by trust and security. We think we are positioned to be leading in this space because when talking about the 80% of the workload that still had not moved, IBM helped over the year to our clients to design their IT strategy. And we know well their industry, we know, and we can help modernize their infrastructure. So the two components, one is hybrid cloud. As we said, it's a combination of public, private, traditional. And we will help our client to modernize their mission critical. And recently, IBM has acquired Red Hat, which I will explain in a minute why it's so important and critical. I just put in this chart just a short summary that Red Hat is the world leader for open source technology, including enterprise Linux. That's everyone knows is the operating system for the cloud, as well as container and OpenShift. In fact, this concept of container is what will allow the application that now are in the 80% that still in the most critical mission critical workflow to be moved to the cloud with avoiding any lock-in. I just stay high level, just giving a glimpse. And if this is one of the two elements of our strategy, what I call the hybrid cloud, the other component is data and artificial intelligence. And I think that combined with the infrastructure element and the hybrid cloud, the data AI are the other fundamental elements that we allow, as said, a new era of business reinvention. So, and I believe that, especially talking with an audience of engineers and students, that is something that I hope you find as fascinating, because it really data and artificial intelligence, in our vision, is what will help the company moving from just improving their process to create intelligent workflow. Processes that are not just efficient, but they are smart. They are capable of finding, connecting, analyzing data to uncover deep insights that can inform intelligent decisions. So, in other terms, if you combine data AI in concert with hybrid cloud, we are making intelligent workflow possible. And I will not spend much time in explaining all our offer, but just give you this chart to summarize that what is our mission. It's really helping to make data simple and accessible, our technology, organize, analyze, and infuse in the business. At the core of this, and I was mentioning before, is the intelligent workflow. And companies that will be able to move just from improving their processes to create those workflow that I said before are not just efficient, but smart. So it's something that we believe are due to change the way we work. We usually define as the cognitive enterprise. So an enterprise that is very different than one that we've been knowing. And we go in moving from more silo static processes to integrated agile workflow. The insights are not just getting from historical data, but we'll be able to take action with real-time data. And automation will lead to orchestration and augmentation of all the variable tasks. Just let me say that this vision, we believe that events like what we are suffering at this time, that is the COVID situation, is just accelerating it. I'm recently reading a vision that as a result of COVID, the time to really the company to move into a new scenario like the one I'm describing will be accelerated of something like five years. I don't want to go much deeper because just after this general explanation of our strategy and the two clear elements, and I want to spend the last 10 minutes of my speech focusing more on what I said is moving on education and skills, and what is our vision in terms of preparing the workforce of the future. If I give, just after having given this glimpse of our business strategy, and hoping I gave you a sense why a company like IBM deliver innovation that matter for our client, but more generally to the world, I think it's important that we share our vision in terms of education and skill that are necessary for the future, as well as what we are doing to contribute in this area. Corporate social responsibility, it's not a nice to have in a company like IBM, but it's at the heart of our company. And we are tackling several big problems at scale. Education, of course, is one of those. So, for context, I think it's not surprisingly if I share a vision like the one you see in this page. And we just taking something like the World Economic Forum, and we are already in a situation where most of the job will change significantly in the coming years. Our point of view is that artificial intelligence specifically is going to change all kinds of jobs. We don't believe that as much job will be eliminated, but the task within the job will be very different than the one that we have seen in the past. And also, we believe that in the coming era, we'll experience what is continuous learning. The pace, the transformation is accelerating, and that requires that we learn continuously. When I went to university, it's almost 30 years ago, my parents thought that providing a good degree would have allowed me to then have a good career all around my life. Reality is that personally, I had to continue to reinvent myself, continue to study. That's just the future we have in front of us. So what IBM is doing, I think this is really the key chart. I want to spend the last 5 minutes to describe a little bit our vision that is of different building blocks. The first one, and I'm sure it will be interesting for the audience, maybe a little bit provocative. It's what we call P-TECH, the P-TECH school model. It's not the audience that I'm talking today, but we live in the society, and we know that there is an increasing number of young people that are not in education, not training, not in employment. Unemployment in Europe was about 17% for the youth population in last year. Every month, millions of young people reach working age, but many without the skill that are necessary. So the P-TECH model was developed first in US in 2011. IBM partnered with the New York City Department of Education to create a model that started high school, providing also STEM skills and allowing already in high school students to start the post high school study, and then compress in 2-year postgraduate to get a certificate exactly in the area that we call the new collar area. Currently in Europe, we have ported, and there are some challenges because in our education system it's not easy to get credit directly in the high school that are valid also for the university. But we started in 8 countries to have P-TECH school. Of course, there is a strong partnership between the academia, the education, and the business. Normally, we try to mobilize partners, so it's not just IBM, but several companies that agree on support this P-TECH effort. And it's a combination of high school, university in a territory, plus companies to create those curricula that is STEM based. The other element is apprenticeship and internship. And we offer apprenticeship for professionals seeking to work in the IT company. Currently in Europe, I would say we have a little less than 2,000 intern every year, 500 opportunity for apprenticeship. It's in some cases, in some countries, especially in US, that is also for veterans. The other element that I would add is this skill build. And skill build, it's another interesting offer that combine online learning with different education. So the same type of offering of education that we give to our employees is also available outside the company. And teacher advisor with Watson, to move to this other element, it's a artificial intelligence that help teachers to adapt their lesson plan to fit unique needs of their students, especially students with learning disability. Is intended to facilitate the also the having more STEM skills within the school and the high school. And finally, other activity regarding women in technology. I think I pretty much reached the time that I was given. Again, I'm looking forward questions. In summary, I just wanted to share how the market transformation that even the recent event, even unfortunately COVID, is accelerating both in terms of moving the infrastructure toward the cloud and using artificial intelligence, using digital to transform the way our enterprise works, what we call the cognitive enterprise. From one side, that explain the focus that we are putting in collaborate with public and private institutions in the area of education with a very practical focus and with the intent to help our society to tackle the main problem that we have, including youth unemployment. With that, I give back to our professor and I stop sharing.
Gian, okay. Thank you very much. I will not comment because that's the role of Etienne. So Etienne, welcome again, and thank you for your participation in this webinar.
Thank you very much, João. Thank you very much, Gianluigi. A very interesting presentation. I hope everybody is able to hear me well. No, a lot of insight, and I agree with most of the point. Can you see me?
Yeah. We can see you and we can listen to you very well.
Perfect.
You have a beautiful room.
That's a painting from India. I've spent a lot of time in India, almost 12 years of my life, and so I bring that back with me. So that's absolutely beautiful. I agree with you. It's from Goa, actually. It's you know, that place which was for many years connected to Portugal. So yes, so I'm Etienne. I am from Natixis. Natixis is an investment bank. We have 4 main activities in investment and corporate banking. We have an activity on wealth management. We have an activity on insurance and an activity on payments. And I have the pleasure to lead Natixis in Portugal, in Porto. We have a setup of close to 1,000 people here in Porto, and we are collaborating a lot with the universities of Porto and the surrounding universities, and of course with Faculdade de Engenharia de Porto, which is extremely important for us because we need talent and talented people, and the bright people that the University of Porto is and the Faculdade de Engenharia is shaping up. So for me, it was a very interesting presentation from you, Gianluigi, because You have touched multiple topics, and the topic of digital, the topic of cloud, the topic of AI, which is effectively increasingly becoming pregnant in our society. And I completely agree with you when you say that the current crisis of COVID is accelerating the shift, is accelerating the revolution. And you mentioned about 5 years accelerating. I don't know how many years, but definitely the use of digital and the use of AI is more and more pregnant in our daily life. Maybe a few words before asking you a few questions, Gianluigi. Collaboration with university for us is essential. As I have said before, we need a lot of young talented people coming out in engineering, in IT, in computer science in general, but we need them as well in banking industry, and there is a lot of engineering activity, data science, mathematics, risk management, market risk, which required a lot of skills that are coming from engineering background, and so for us it's essential to have those collaboration with you. You mentioned that as well, Gianluigi, but I want to emphasize on it a little bit more. It is about the skills that we expect from the students coming out of the universities. So definitely one of the most important skills is definitely this ability to learn and to keep learning. This is essential. And I think it's even more essential for you than it was for us. You mentioned, Gianluigi, that yes, you have evolved, and I'm convinced about that. You have evolved your entire career. However, the competition today is just multiplied by 10. The world is flat, as you know. Nowadays, a student from Palo Alto in California or a student in China or in India is definitely able to be in collaboration with us immediately. There is maybe even people from those locations which are listening to us today. We are all speaking in English. We are connected through the cloud and through the digital means which are available today. And so, yes, for a student today, he's not anymore, confined to the surrounding, the city of Porto, the country of Portugal, or the European Union, but definitely he's in competition, or he's with a lot of students from all over the world. And that's definitely a challenge, a new challenge. And this we have a responsibility here. We have a responsibility to keep learning, to stay on the edge, to stay aware of what not only is happening in our close country, but all over the world, and how effectively the activity, the market is evolving all over the world. And that's I think, extremely important. Keep in mind that you need to keep learning, and that's probably one of your most important skills for your entire life. The second aspect that I completely agree with what you have said on that, Gianluigi, is about AI. AI, so it's about mathematics, and it's about AI, and it's impacting our life every day. I have a few questions for you, but on this, but we can see that more and more computer and digital is helping us in our activity, daily activity. Google Map is a very good example. It's always, calculated. We are using it every day, and every day is able to optimize the distance, to optimize the time when we are moving from one location to another. This is just one easy example that I'm taking on. And maybe one third topic that I would like to share with you and with the student of the Faculty of Engineering is about diversity. I think that you are growing in a world which is much, much, much more diverse than the world that I had grown up. I am from Strasbourg, which is a city close to Germany, and I'm coming from a little tiny village. And I can tell you, before 1820, I was in my village and in the surrounding of that village. So, but today, diversity is something that you will face and you will embrace, and I think that's the beauty of it. But you will be able to work with people which have a background and competencies which are extremely diverse, very different than yours, and take this opportunity, take that opportunity to understand what could they bring at the table, and I think that's something that you could definitely leverage on. So now let me ask you a few questions, Gianluigi, if I may. And maybe I will try to play the devil advocate here. A first question about the future. We keep saying, and you said it, and I'm convinced about it as well, about the fact that the job of the future will be slightly different than the job of today, that the world is changing. But we are saying that probably since the last 5, 6, 7 years. I have already worked on what we called SWP, Strategic Workforce Planning, 5 years ago. And honestly speaking, though there is a lot of evolution, the landscape of work has not changed. So please tell me more about that. Do you believe that, what is your thought about that?
My thought about, I believe that what we hear on the newspaper that job will disappear, I don't believe in that. I believe that job will change. That's my, I think that, and look, take my job. I'm working in human resources. I just disclosed my my anagraphy, just saying that I was at university 30 years ago. When I started, my career was mainly, and the people that progress in my career was mainly mastering processes. I mean, that has gone, because if there's an area that has been and will be even more automated is this one. That's transactional activity is really something that will kind of disappear. I can make a lot of examples that but does that mean that a job like mine is going away? No, it's changing. My job now is looking at data, is looking at insight. Inside IBM, I'll give you a couple of examples. We, first of all, the way we look at skill is totally different than we had in the past. When I started, we were collecting information and asking manager to tell and assess skill of the people. That's not viable. It's too late. And the manager probably, they even do not know all about the people. Now we do inference. We have Watson, our artificial intelligence, that assess the skill based on the multiple contribution that the people do in everything they do. And even think that, of course, I'm an HR vice president, and in Europe, people like me had to deal with a lot of complexity with unions, work council, privacy. I mean, we started a transparent dialogue, even in the most complicated environment, to help our social parties understand that using that technology in this respect is positive. We just recently signed an agreement with the Work Council in Germany on the framework to address use of artificial intelligence internally. So is it my job disappearing? No, it's just transformed. It's different. And in my profession, even more now, we're looking at data scientists to work in HR, something that we couldn't imagine in the past.
Yes, I agree with you when you mentioned, so we are using as well artificial intelligence for recruitment nowadays. As you know, there is more and more tools which help us to compare resumes and CVs and to select resumes based on a focus of interest. And I agree with you, those are definitely areas which are evolving fast and rapidly. You mentioned about Watson. So Watson for me is probably one of the first and the most emblematic, artificial intelligence tools which appeared probably a decade ago or a little bit more than that. I don't know exactly when it appeared for the first time, but I remember very well when it started to be the chess player and then the Go player and keeping evolving. So where do we stand on Watson? We see science fiction movies very, very frequently where everything is so easy, but our life is not really much changing. So what Watson is doing today, how is it evolving?
So that would require a proper webinar, and besides is going beyond my experience and my competence. But I think what is important that we are learning of artificial intelligence is that, again, coming back to what you asked before, the impact on job and how job will be transformed, our view is that this is more augmenting intelligence, augment the intelligence and help the ourselves to do better our work. And you said that at the basis, and I'm not, of course, a technician, but you said right that at the basis of artificial intelligence there is the mathematics, there is statistics mainly, and combined with the power of the technology. And I would add another element. IBM made a big bet on Watson, but now the frontier is quantum and quantum computer, because the power that we need for what we are observing is really kind of exponential. So is that something that is changing the way we live? I definitively believe yes. Is that helping us to take on new challenge that we have in front of us? I think that's, again, is coming in our life. We know all the effort that were put, for instance, in accelerating the ability to provide a vaccine for COVID-19. When this pandemic started, everyone knew that it took years. We really hope, like you said, that will come much, much faster. I mean, that's just the accumulation of all our search and study. And what is key is that it's a combination of an ecosystem of different element enterprise technology that are coming and are transforming our life. And that circle back again on the need of different skill, more skill, and continuous learning.
Okay. As you are saying, a lot of new things are there. We have to adjust, we have to adapt, we have to embrace. We have no choice to do all of that. That's my conviction. What advice would you give to the students of which are today at the Facultà d'Ingegneria at the Universidad do Porto or wherever they are all over the world? What advice would you give them? What should they do to succeed?
I would give the same advice I give to my children. I have 2 children, and one recently started to work, graduated. The other one is doing his master's degree. The advice I would give is that rather than think what they want to do in the future, is what you student, what you want to be. What is the place in this world you want to have? How you can impact? Because simply as said, the job will change. And what just looking and just focusing on what is more convenient, what I think I like at this point, without asking ourselves, really, what role we want to have in this world, that could be tricky. That's the advice I'm giving to my kids.
Interesting. And I like the question, the way you have articulated the question, instead of asking what kind of job or what do you want to do, but what do you want to be? And I like that question. What do you want to be? It's really, and I think it's a very, very interesting way.
And look, it also, you mentioned something that for us is extremely important when you were commenting the focus on diversity. And let me come a little bit why it's so important. I believe what we want to be, what is our role in this world. I believe that even diversity is not enough. And I think I would challenge a lot the business world, because so far diversity has been seen as percentage representation. I think what is really key is inclusion. That is the way we work that need to be different. I mean, it doesn't matter just to have a percentage, but are we creating an inclusive environment to work? Are we really adopting new agile ways? Are we putting at the center the experience of the employee, of the client? Are we adopting design thinking? And if we do this methodology, that will also help us to innovate our process. And coming back to the talking to engineers, it's gone much faster when team adopt new way of working and are more inclusive.
I completely agree with you. Inclusivity is the key success factor of diversity, because if you are diverse, but at the end of the day, you only follow one way of doing things, or you only focus on one way of, then you lose the diversity benefits. And the most important is effectively to embrace, to welcome different perspectives, to welcome freedom of speech at the end of the day. And it can come from everywhere, from everybody. And I completely agree with you. And I am a convinced defender of diversity and inclusion personally, and I do it for innovation, but as well for, as I said, the freedom of speech and the capacities that we have together to make better decisions when we have multiple perspectives and not only one single way of doing things and perspective. So a lot of things that we could debate on diversity and inclusion. João, you want to take some question maybe? Yes.
Yes, thank you very much for the interesting discussion. And I can now ask the audience to raise their hands if they want to make a question. You can use Zoom to do that, or you can send me a message, a text message. Meanwhile, Gian referred that artificial intelligence is quite important, or it's very important, in particular for artificial intelligence. And I think also that both of your businesses are a service business, but we have many relevant jobs in industry that will evolve as well. And one of the questions I had from Isabel Furtado was, and she's in industry, textile industries for different areas. How can we motivate students for studying maths, and how can we motivate students to go into industry? And you can, the first one to answer can answer, but it's a question for both of you.
Yes. So let me take it, and the example I was making of what we call P-Tech, and P stay for pathways to technology. And this initiative that has been highly successful in US is not something that is so compelling in Europe, but is coming to be in US. To have a college degree is extremely expensive. It's really expensive. I mean, and I work in US for several years, and one of my kids went at school in North America, so I really can tell you. So the work that we have done to create this system that have some, in high school, a curricula that also anticipates some of the courses that normally are taken at university, and then compress into a 2-year to get an associate degree, has been extremely successful, has helped disadvantaged community to and kids to approach STEM, to approach math, and to build what we call a new collar career. So I think it's a systemic thing. I was mentioning that PTech, and we have 8 countries in Europe when we are facilitating it. There's PTech school in Ireland, in UK, in Poland, Czech Republic, Italy, France. But you see it's systemic because you have private, public institutions, you have the need of working on different curricula between high school and university. And but when you can create these, and again, we are trying to have those schools, especially in areas where, from a societal point of view, are more disadvantaged in Europe as well. I think that's the type of response. Personally, I think that just good intention of one company alone is never enough. You need to be systemic.
My conviction on the topic is mathematics is completely core nowadays. It's as much important as English, or even more important than English, actually. And as I told you before, I've spent 12 years of my life in India, and I just came back in May. And my daughter now is studying in the US, in California. And I can tell you that the degrees in mathematics are all fully booked, absolutely fully booked. So in India, as well as you said, and in America, mathematics is extremely popular and is more and more popular. And it's precisely because of data science, of artificial intelligence, and all the new vast unknown world of AI and data science, which is just opening at scale. And so there is a lot of kids from India, from the US, probably in China, which are just diving into it. So for me, it's a core skill. So, and I think that there is so many things to learn on data science, so many things to learn on AI. It's just, we are just at the early beginning. So yes, it's asking in the late 19th century if mechanics or car engineering is something which could be interesting. Of course it is. It was just the beginning of the adventure, of the journey. So for me, it's just the beginning. And for me, this is the appealing factor. The 50% of the job of the future will be completely connected to this nowadays already. I'm hiring at scale data scientists.
Okay, I agree with you. And I think we have our school very high requirement on mathematics and also on physics. Even in informatics engineering, the students will go through physics, which is also a core or for most of the engineering programs. So I completely agree. And the question is how to improve this. Another question that has been raised by João from the CEO of also a company where we're working with is should a professor, university professor, spend some time in industry before or during his time at university? And when I speak of industry, when he speaks of industry, I believe he also means not only industry, but service or external organizations closer perhaps to the real life problems and challenges.
Maybe I can start, Gianluigi, this one. I mean, I have a lot of respect for all the professors of the universities and the faculties. And honestly speaking, I don't know if I would be skilled to teach. So it would be extremely arrogant from my side to say, yes, of course, you should go to the industry and this will bring many more knowledge that you might not have today. I mean, I think diversity of journeys are always very interesting. If you have done many things, you can put parallels, you can put things in perspective. So definitely, I think that sometimes having some bridge between industry and faculties and universities are very well welcome. But again, I am extremely respectful of the work that is done by you, and I think it's complementary than with the work which is done by us within the industry. And nowadays, I think that with a combination of internship, we are doing quite a good job in taking the raw material, the diamond, which is not yet completely sharpened from the university, and then able to shape them within our respective companies. I think it's working, and we need to intensify the number of internships.
Thank you.
I agree with Etienne completely. I don't think there's a one fits all, and I think it's more complex, and I think it's really the ability to continue to learn. I think there's definitively, I'm just thinking here that there need to be a contamination and there need to be a collaboration. But if that takes formal part of the curriculum or not, I think it really depends.
Okay, I have a question of my own to Gian Luigi. You mentioned that it's more important to have skills than degrees, and we have degrees. And what do you think will be the role of degrees in the future? Well, it's for both of you, but because Gian Luigi wrote that, I'm going to ask him first.
So let me, and of course we are debating, and when we are debating, we go for simplification. I have the utmost respect for the academia, and I think it's absolutely a value. On the other hand, I was just thinking that we do need to first give the ability to assess to the job of the future to a broader population than the one that we allow today. I also believe that some of those new jobs not necessarily need a degree level. And last but not least, I think that it's part of, and I don't know enough, I'm ignorant on that, I don't know enough the Portuguese education system, but I can tell you, I'm coming from the north of Italy, and it's really the area that is close to Switzerland, and vocational education in the high school, like in the Swiss and German example, is extremely important in the area where I come, and was so important and vital for the development of the, and especially, I mean, Etienne was mentioning, but the area where I come from, it's mechanic, it's a very long tradition, and vocational education has been so important. So at the end, that is something that we need as a system to ensure, because the real problem that we have today is the 20% of young people that are not at work, they don't study. And we need to tackle these elements. And degree education could be too ambitious and could compromise. We need to find ways to bring to STEM also this part that currently is excluded and is a significant problem for our society.
João, let me maybe answer to your question with one quote, which is one of my favorites, which is the following one. It's attitude more than aptitude sets your altitude.
Yes, it's a very good quote. And we are reaching the time limit for this webinar. I'd like to thank both of you and all the people that are listening to it, from the audience. I'm sure both of you would be excellent professors in our school, and it was very, very interesting this webinar. at least I learned a lot that can influence also our decisions. We also have to make changes, continuously changing. And so thank you very much. This will be available online from now on. And you're very welcome to come to, in case of Etienne, to FEUP, and in case of Luigi, Luigi to Porto. And we can share, when the time is right, a bottle of port or a glass of port. And when I finish my job, I might apply either to IBM or to Natixis if my skills and my attitude is the right one for your company. So it was a pleasure. Thank you very much, and enjoy the day also. And
thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. I'm very, very impressed by both of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.